Hello and welcome to Scott Reads Comics. Today I would like to review Star Wars Boba Fett, Death, Lies, and Treachery, published in 1998 by Dark Horse Comics. This is when Dark Horse, of course, had their long-running Star Wars license. They produced a lot of great comics during a period of time when there really wasn't anything new coming out for Star Wars. Of course, their big thing was Shadows of the Empire, accompanied by a great toy line. My friend Sky loaned me this book to check out because he knows I'm a big Cam Kennedy fan. And this is in fact done by the British team of John Wagner and artist Cam Kennedy. It's really incredible. It's for Boba Fett and Mandalorian fans. This is a must read, must get. And on the back it says, throughout the vast reaches of the galaxy, wherever fugitives meet or lawbreakers conspire, one name is always uttered in hushed tones. Some say he is a Mandalore warrior. Others, that he merely wears the Mandalore battlesuit because of its unrivaled killing power. The truth is impossible to confirm, for none have seen the face that gazes with merciless eyes from within that battered helmet. None, at least, who have lived to tell the tale. So, as we go through this, as I read it initially, something really became apparent to me that this felt a lot like a 2000 AD comic, and that is not a bad thing. And it just in the tone, and of course with these two creators, this is kind of what you'd expect. I became first aware of Cam Kennedy before this came out. He did an incredible 6-issue series for Marvel Epic called The Light and Darkness War. It's something I'd love to cover on the show. It would probably get about 27 views, but I think ultimately it would be worthwhile covering it because it's just so cool. And I'd like to get the word out for folks who haven't read it. But of course, this Boba Fett story is awesome. And we have story John Wagner, art Cam Kennedy, lettering Steve Dutro and Bob Pinhana. And I'm assuming here that Cam Kennedy's also doing the colors. And it's very stylistic, a lot of greens, a lot of pastels. So basically, this story centers around Boba Fett's work with and for Gorka the Hutt, who is obviously not Jabba. He's another of the Hutt race. And Gorka is trying to eventually marry a very beautiful, in his eyes, Hutt woman named Arachna Hutt. She's not a Hutt, actually. She is Fell Trader, I think is her surname. But he has to impress her father, Orko, and he also hates him and wants his wealth. So there's a lot of backstabbing and whatnot that goes on in this. And of course, Boba Fett is chief among the backstabbers. He's able to, in Yojimbo style, work the different factions against each other to his own benefit. And here he involves this magnificent Magwit, who's basically a traveling magician. Here he is with his family. He was considered a minor criminal, but Boba Fett eventually apprehends him. And again, the Cam Kennedy artwork and colors on this are just dazzling. And the John Wagner story is a lot of fun. He's not afraid to take chances to do things that might be considered not in the Star Wars not in the Star Wars milieu canonically, but it all works because he's such a good storyteller and Cam Kennedy is such a good creative partner. Love Slave One here. One of my favorite toys as a kid. Totally awesome ship. Came with his Han Solo and Carbonite. Totally great. Here he's captured Magwit and some other quarry. And here's one of the main villains in the piece, Barcuda, who's this ridiculous but very menacing looking at the same time. I don't know how they accomplished that. Alien. And in order to get out of his captivity from Boba Fett, Magwit agrees to help him capture literally a bigger fish in Barcuda. And there's a lot of these full page pieces in the book, and they work really well because Kennedy has just such an awesome command of space scenes, perspective, relative scale, things like that. He cheats where he has to, and does a really good job depicting the tech in all of these stories. And the fight scenes are incredible. The characters, like I said, this character is just so amazing looking. I could see this guy as an action figure. I really would love it, actually. If he ever was an action figure, it would be totally awesome. And so now Magwit has been enlisted in the capture of Barracuda. He's got to get him, Boba Fett has to get him away from all of his crew because this guy's a space pirate. And Magwit uses his magic hoop trick to trick Barracuda. It's basically like a short-range teleportation device. Here, Boba Fett's waiting on the other side. And I do love the way Cam Kennedy draws his armor. Some of these panels are almost monochromatic, but of course there's more than one color going on here, but just the subtle use of color in these panels is really what catches the eye. Love this here. Boba Fett yanks him through. And then he's an incredibly fearsome foe. But of course, so is Boba Fett. So, you're dead meat, Boba Fett. Shunk, shunk, shunk. But that Mandalorian armor, so beautifully rendered by our artist, is proof against this guy. Boba Fett neutralizes him. And eventually, he and Magwit get away, although Boba Fett is ruthless in these stories. He's really not even, I guess you'd call him an anti-hero. He does nothing heroic. Everything is for his own gain. And he was willing to leave Magwit behind, but Magwit astutely catches up to him, and they both escape in this shuttle. And again, here's another one of those awesome shots here. This one, I guess, is two single-page panels, basically, with some awesome storytelling here, showing these guys, the victims of an explosive decompression, as Boba Fett blows the hatch and escapes in his mini shuttle. And here we see it from another's, that's the shuttle leaving, and here is the shuttle leaving from the opposite perspective. And of course, you can see these poor sots floating in space, soon to be deleted, so to speak. And again, a neat look at the perspective between this gigantic, almost capital class ship and the shuttle, much smaller shuttle. It's not this, like, probably this shuttle should be a lot smaller, but it works because of a combination of color and angles. Kim Kennedy is really, really a fantastic artist. And I'm surprised I haven't done any Star Wars on the show and all the episodes I've done, nor have I done any Cam Kennedy stuff yet, I don't think. So this is long overdue. And here is a meeting of the three Hutts, Gorka, Orko, and Arachno, who Gorka wants to marry. She's the most beautiful Hutt ever, according to Gorka. And of course, Boba Fett serves up Barracuda's, he turned Barracuda over to them, and they serve up his dead body as a meal to seal the wedding, to seal the match. Barracuda was costing Orko a lot of money because his pirates were stealing his illicit cargoes. So that's how Barracuda was his enemy. That's how he was valuable. And that's how his capture and eventual death made the match that Orko was seeking possible. So there's a lot of wild twists and turns as we go through this. It's a lot of fun, though. Love that force shield there on that. This has got to be the early days of computer coloring, and this may have been computer colored by Cam Kennedy, or a combination of hand coloring and some computer After Effects, perhaps. Some said he was a Mandalore warrior. Others that he merely wore the Mandalore battlesuit because of its unrivaled killing power. None, at least, who have lived to tell the tale. Oh, okay, so yeah, that's the same tagline from the back. So one thing that I don't like about this collection is this is multiple issues put together, and they don't include the cover. So It's kind of tough if you're just paging through to tell where one part of the story begins and the other ends. With here, Arachno eventually gets kidnapped when Gorka and she are on their honeymoon. And so he employs Boba Fett to get her back. Meanwhile, this little guy, Boz, who's a real troublemaker, this rat-like little alien, he finds Barkuda's brother, Rai Kuda, and informs him that his brother's dead and that they need to get revenge on Boba Fett and Gorka the Hutt and everyone else who was involved. And he kind of stirs this guy up, who's even more menacing than his brother was. Okay, who wants to join Rai Kuda's gang? So he immediately has a gang of cutthroats now. He intimidates them into his service. Meanwhile, Gorka is trying to get Orko, File Trader's henchman, to kill him. So this is very comedic. Putting poison in here, but accidentally smashes the glass and, of course, gets stabbed in the face. So he's going to try to devise some other way to kill this Hutt. Of course, all behind Gorka's new wife's back, because he doesn't want her to know that he's trying to kill her father to get his entire empire. Great sequence here with Boba Fett tracking these guys with the ransom, because he's going to try to track them back to Arachno and recover her, using these little inset circular panels here to show how Boba Fett's armor is able to track them on his heads-up display. Very cool stuff. And again, this is obviously pre-Disney Mandalorian, and this has such a strong Mandalorian feel to it, with the exception of the fact that this is Boba Fett and not the Mandalorian that we know and love from the show, and he is ruthless and almost scrupulous, really, or maybe overly scrupulous if you think about it, because he's unbending in his application of what he considers to be the law in recovering his bounties. Meanwhile, the Mandalorian obviously had a change of heart, rescued the child, and the rest was history. But I could see this as a fantastic live action or animated show. I mean, I watched the Boba Fett show, the Book of Boba Fett. I couldn't really get into it very much. I just felt like the story wasn't super strong. I feel like if they adapted something like this, it would have been a lot cooler. The speeder bike action, the vehicles in this, and of course the fight scenes are all so awesome. Here's Rai Kuda arriving to try to find and kill Boba Fett. Arrived too late though. Very cool here, shooting these spikes out of his armor, Boba Fett. He's going to rescue this large female Hutt. It's going to take quite a bit of lift to get her out of there. At one point when I was first reading this, I thought, oh man, she's going to buy it, because I had never read this before. But you'll see that Boba Fett always gets his man or his woman. So, oh, look at that. That's so awesome. He smashes into this guy who's like the size of a small vehicle himself, and of course, Arachno goes flying and lands on these guys. Another bit of comedy there, breaking her fall and likely killing them. And Rai Kuda's stunned, but come on, Rai Kuda, get up. You're not hurt. Nothing can hurt you. So this little guy, Fett, just cuffs him aside, and then the real fight between these two starts. And it's a pretty good one. Here, Boz loses his tail, and Fett returns Gorka's new wife to him, and she finds out that she is going to be pregnant, that she is pregnant. So there's a new Huttling on the way. Now we're going to get into the next part of our story, where again, now Gorka wants to pay Boba Fett to look into, at least, look at this color on here, this is gorgeous. These alien landscapes are incredible. He wants Boba Fett, clandestinely, of course, to look into assassinating his father-in-law, Orko, foul traitor. So that's what the last part of our story is going to be. But Boba Fett has another offer. He's going to try and manipulate Orko into paying him to protect him. But meanwhile, Kuda survived, shows up after Boba Fett has left, and in what seems to be a grisly off-panel scene, kills Orko pretty savagely, dismembering and eating part of him. Portions of the foul traitor are missing. Eaten, perhaps? The savagery of the attack. These distinctive footmarks point to one suspect. Could the creature have survived? So Boba Fett, also a pretty good detective, realizes that Kuda has survived. This is a flashback sequence showing us that. And I like how they do that. Cam Kennedy changes the color for the flashback sequence, so kind of we know we're in a flashback. The palette completely changes. Now we're back to these greens. Really cool stuff. I should have brought him down when I was recording this, but I have the animated action figure that was inspired by this story, and he's great. I don't buy a lot of action figures, but I do buy Mandalorian action figures and Boba Fett action figures. I have a small collection of them, and they're super cool. 3 3/4 inch, of course. So here we get into our final conflict between Kuda and Boba Fett, and of course Boz exhorting Kuda on. And Kuda is about to kill the now with child Arachno, but Boba Fett shows up. And man, this guy's unkillable. He gets up again. And we have a great final fight sequence between the two here. And looks like he's about to do Boba Fett in. He gets spiked in the head and then blasted back into these toxic chemicals. And eventually, in this incredible sequence of panels here, Kuda is consumed. And all that's left are his lower trunk and legs just standing there. A worthy foe, in many ways, to be admired. You killed my buddy. I'll make you pay for this, Boba Fett. If it's the last thing I do, I'll make you pay. I'll just have to take that chance. And so Fett doesn't even kill Boz because there's no profit in him for him. There's no angle to it. So he just, again, swats him aside, this time with a boot. And now the Fett couple is reunited. Gorka and his wife, and Gorka lies his way out of the fact that he was partially responsible for the death of her father. And of course, they have their new family to think about here, as we have a little baby Fett, kind of cute, actually. Look at this battered armor of Boba Fett's. It's totally great. Very effective modeling and pockmarking on that helmet. And then what do we have in the end? We have an enraged Boz. You won't get away with this. I'll never rest as long as you live. I'll hunt you down and pay you back. The universe isn't big enough for both of us, Boba Fett. The end. Great here with the enlarged Boz juxtaposed against Boba Fett streaking away on his speeder bike. Really cool. Yeah. Very awesome. Cam Kennedy was long overdue being featured on this. John Wagner's script was excellent. Who doesn't like a cool Boba Fett story? So I'm glad you joined me for it. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. Tell your friends, and I'll bring you more soon on Scott Reads Comics. Thanks for watching.